Welcome back, everyone. Buckle up. Because today we're going deep on something, well, frankly, pretty bizarre.
I know, right?
The Tour de France.
Right.
But not your typical, doping scandal.
Oh, definitely not. This is something else entirely.
Grizzly bear blood.
Grizzly bear blood doping. It's got it all. The science, the ethics, international intrigue, you name it.
We've got reports from journalists, scientists, even governments.
Mhm.
We're talking bee attacks, superhuman strength cyclists, hibernating mid-race.
It raises so many questions, doesn't it? About the lengths people will go to for an edge and the consequences they're willing to ignore.
So let's start at the beginning with Jean-Luc Martin,
Ah, yes. Jean-Luc Martin.
sports journalist extraordinaire.
He really broke this thing wide open.
His article in pasted text dropped the bombshell. A quarter of the Tour de France cyclists were doping, but not with EPO or steroids.
Nope. They were using grizzly bear blood.
Grizzly bear blood. Now that's a headline.
It's what got everyone's attention, that's for sure. But then you have to ask why. Why bear blood?
Right. What is it about grizzly bear blood that made someone think, yeah, that'll give our cyclists an edge?
Well, it comes down to the science. Grizzly bears are incredible creatures. They thrive in harsh environments, high altitudes, low oxygen. And a big part of that is their blood.
Their blood.
Their blood, specifically their hemoglobin, the protein that carries oxygen throughout the body. It's far more efficient than ours.
So some brilliant mind thought, hey, if we can get that bear blood into our cyclists.
They'll have superhuman stamina recovery, dominate the tour.
Sounds like a surefire recipe for victory. Until it all goes wrong.
Oh, it went wrong, all right.
No, go.
Spectacularly wrong.
First of all, the ethics of it all. I mean, where are they getting this blood?
Exactly. Animal welfare. Out the window, apparently.
And what about the risks to the cyclists themselves? Pumping bear blood into a human. That can't be good.
Immune reactions, infections, unforeseen consequences. Our bodies aren't meant to handle bear blood.
And as the tour went on, things got weirder.
Tja.
I mean, really weird.
Oh, yeah. This is where it goes from a doping scandal to a full-blown science fiction movie.
Jean-Luc Martin reported on this cyclist, Alexandre Dupont, ended up in the hospital after a swarm of bees attacked him.
Poor Dupont.
Turns out he'd developed this intense craving for honey, found raiding beehives.
Now, that's when people really start scratching their heads.
I'll say, I mean, cyclists and honey, not exactly a natural pairing.
But bears love honey. It's a staple of their diet.
So could the bear blood be transferring some primal instincts? Or altering brain chemistry? It's a chilling thought.
It really is. And the bee incident was just the tip of the iceberg.
Oh yeah, it gets wilder. We started getting reports of cyclists displaying almost superhuman strength.
Bending steel bars, scaling the Eiffel Tower like Spider-Man.
It seems the changes went beyond just oxygen, muscle structure, hormone levels. These athletes were turning into something else.
Something else indeed.
And then there was that crazy incident with the Canadian Mounties, skiing right into the peloton, confiscating maple syrup,
Maple syrup.
laced with bear pheromones. Talk about a scene.
Right out of a spy film. And it highlighted the Canadian connection to all of this.
Turned out those maple syrup concoctions were linked to a secret Canadian military program.
Project Grizzly.
Their goal, create super soldiers with bear-like abilities. What they got was a rogue program and a whole lot of trouble.
Classic case of good intentions gone wrong. And of course, the Canadian government denied everything.
Oh, they tried to play it off. Just very hairy Canadians, they said.
Right. Very hairy Canadians with a sudden craving for honey and the ability to climb buildings.
But Jean-Luc Martin wouldn't let it go. He kept digging, uncovered more and more evidence, and then he dropped the bombshell.
The Canadian government was the source of the bear blood, selling off research samples on the black market.
An international scandal with
Yeah.
huge consequences for Canada.
But let's not forget the human side of all of this.
You're absolutely right. These cyclists weren't just pawns in some scheme. They were people whose lives were utterly upended.
These cyclists, they weren't just experiencing physical side effects, you know. It was their identities, their very sense of self changing.
We started seeing reports of cyclists acting well like bears, foraging for food, climbing trees.
Even catching fish with their bare teeth.
There was even that report of one being mistaken for Bigfoot up in the Pyrenees Mountains.
It's fascinating and heartbreaking at the same time. These athletes, they were grappling with these intense physical and psychological changes.
Some even started mourning the bears. They felt a connection to them.
A strange sense of kinship.
It's a testament to just how deeply this experiment affected them. So what happened next? How did the cycling world react?
The UCI. Well, they were in a tough spot. They launched that Save the Bears campaign, tried to promote wildlife conservation, offered counseling to the cyclists.
A good start, I guess.
Yeah.
But what about the Tour de France itself? Do they just carry on like nothing happened?
Not quite. They had to adapt, introduced what they called hibernation stages.
Hibernation stages.
Yeah. Cyclists could actually sleep through part of the race.
Hold on. Are you telling me they set up little bear dens along the route?
Pretty much. Specially designed dens for the cyclists to sleep off the effects of the bear blood. Surreal doesn't even begin to describe it.
Surreal's one word for it, yeah. So we've got cyclists turning into bears sleeping through the race, and then it gets even weirder. Tell me about this bear language thing.
Ah, yes, the bear language.
Uh-huh.
One of the most unexpected developments. Some cyclists would wake up from these hibernation stages speaking fluent bear.
Wait, really? They could talk to bears.
Not quite talking to them, but they were speaking complex Ursine dialects, linguists confirmed it, discussing fishing techniques, berry picking spots. It seems the bear blood activated some dormant linguistic potential in their brains.
Okay, now I'm officially mind blown. This is straight out of a science fiction novel.
It really is. And it gets darker. Remember those intense physiological changes we talked about? Well, some people saw an opportunity.
What do you mean?
Underground bear blood fighting rings started popping up.
Fighting rings? Like with the cyclists?
Exactly. Brutal, illicit events. Cyclists fueled by bear blood and aggression, wrestling each other. They even used fighting techniques similar to wild grizzlies.
It's terrifying. A scientific breakthrough spiraling out of control. We started with enhanced performance and ended up with underground fighting rings and cyclists who speak bear.
It's a reminder, isn't it, of the ethical implications of scientific advancement, the potential for unintended consequences. We can't just chase progress without considering the risks.
Absolutely. This wasn't just about cheating in a bike race anymore. It was a social and ethical crisis, blurring the lines between humans and animals.
And in the midst of all this chaos, some of the cyclists, they formed a cult.
A cult? Seriously?
They called it the Great Cycling Spirit, a deity embodying the strength and endurance of the grizzly bear. They would gather in the woods, perform rituals where bear masks consume large quantities of honey.
It sounds like a desperate attempt to cope with the trauma of their transformation.
It was a complex and tragic situation, these individuals searching for meaning, belonging, in a world that no longer made sense to them.
So in the end, what happened to the Tour de France? Did it recover?
The race went on. But it was forever changed. The bear blood doping scandal, it cast a long shadow, forced everyone to reconsider the pursuit of victory at all costs.
It really makes you think, what started as some quest for athletic glory ended up shaking the foundations of cycling. And I think it raises questions that go way beyond sports,
Absolutely. Ambition, scientific ethics, our relationship with nature. This scandal forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths.
So what happened to those cyclists? The ones who were caught doping? The ones who, changed?
Their lives were never the same. Some of them embraced it, the bear-like traits, migrated north for the salmon run, or just chose to live in the wilderness. Others struggled to reintegrate into society, haunted by what they went through.
It's a real reminder of the human cost of all this. Caught in the crossfire of science gone wrong, their lives, their identities forever altered.
It really underlines the responsibility we have when it comes to science.
Yeah.
Pushing the boundaries. We have to consider the consequences for individuals, for society.
Speaking of responsibility, what about the Canadian government?
Yeah.
Did they face any repercussions for, their role in all of this?
The international community was outraged, put it mildly. Canada faced intense pressure, diplomatic economic sanctions. It led to a major overhaul of their scientific research oversight, stricter regulations on experimental substances.
And Jean-Luc Martin, the journalist who broke the story, what happened to him?
His career skyrocketed. Awards, recognition. His work changed things. It became a textbook example of the power of investigative journalism, holding those in power accountable.
It's inspiring, really. One person's dedication to the truth, making such a difference. So looking back at all of this, what are the takeaways? What should we learn as a society?
I think this whole scandal, it's a cautionary tale. A reminder that the pursuit of human potential, it can have unintended consequences, dangerous ones. We need to think about the ethics. Make sure progress doesn't come at the expense of well-being or the integrity of our institutions.
It's a powerful thought. And this deep dive, it's been quite a journey. We started with a doping scandal and ended up exploring science, ethics, human nature.
We saw how ambition, curiosity, secrecy can create a perfect storm. unforeseen and often disturbing outcomes. But we also saw the power of individual action, journalism, a commitment to the truth.
It's a story that I think will stay with us, make us consider the choices we make, the limits we push, and the consequences we're willing to accept in our pursuit of progress.
And as we move forward, let's remember the lessons we learned from the Bear blood doping scandal, striving for a future where innovation and responsibility go hand in hand.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it gave you something to think about. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.